welcome to our first masterclass of 2026. We're very excited to have friend of the centre, which we don't give that title out, James Riordan. So James, when this centre was literally me, a room, and an order for technology that hadn't arrived yet. James was our first artist in residence back in September 23, and literally he arrived in at pretty much the same time all the boxes did, and we opened them and went, what the hell does this stuff do, and how do you work it? And but then we had 2 weeks of lots of fun figuring that out, and James got lots of really interesting and helpful people down to do that with us, and so really that was where this all began. I think there's probably a photo of you beside the president somewhere on our website.
There definitely is, yeah.
And so Jace does obviously great work, across mediums, and at the heart, I think it's all about telling stories. So really excited to hear you talk about that and how that translates into thinking about what we can do in the immersive.
Yeah, great.
So I will be here. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Con. It's very nice to be back. So my name is James Riordan, as Con said, and I am the artistic director with a company called Brew Theatre, and I'm one of the directors of Mockness, based here in Galway. And I suppose from those two things, you can gather that theatre is kind of where I come from, and kind of physical theatre and masks and puppets and dance and music, and that's kind of my world and where I trained, and the kind of generally the work I would have made up until our beloved 2020 when COVID hit and things changed. So today I'm here to talk to you about 360-degree storytelling in headsets. I have my own headsets here, which, as Con says, are like 1993. And there's Quest 2s and Quest 3s. And what we've done is load up some of the different things I'll be talking about and some additional things onto the headsets. So the thinking is that I'm going to chat to you about my experience, what I've learned from 360, how I've made the work, talk a little bit about other people's work I've seen that I think does 360 quite successfully. And then the opportunities for you guys is to watch a little bit of it in a headset, if you so like. And we can chat about it in small groups or one-on-ones or whatever. So it's not going to be 2 hours of me talking. You will be delighted to hear, because we'd run out of steam quite quickly. So yeah, I am a theatre maker first and foremost. I don't come from tech, and I have learned tech as I go, or how to talk about it and how to work with it. We have a piece that was made in 180 degree, which was my first piece, called Ar Ais Arís, and that was 2021. We started, and we are still touring as of last week. So and I'll talk a little bit about the economics of this kind of work. From an economic point of view of a theatre company, it has been amazing for us to have something that we can bring around in this suitcase and present to people. We were in Canada and Toronto last year. We've done it on boats, on airplane fields, islands, you name it. We've taken that kind of like 180, 360-degree storytelling out and about. And as theatre people, normally you make something and it never exists again. It's been great for us to make something that is both theatrical, but is also film and tech, but has legacy. So I'll speak a little bit about that later on. So a little bit about me, I suppose. I'm from Galway, and I come from a physical theatre world where I trained in a place called Lisbon in London, which is like a Lecoq kind of based school, and it would have been very much about the body and devising theatre, physical theatre. So I don't come in any way from computers, and David will attest, they scare me sometimes, kind of. So I suppose this is for anybody who might be here or watching at home. You're interested in theatre, visual art, dance music, and how you might get that intersection between what you do and digital and headsets. That's kind of what this is about. So there may be some people here who are super tech people, and hopefully there's something in it for you. But I'm only really talking about where I come from and how I managed to make it part of my practice. So I would have trained in London in physical theatre. I went into cabaret for a long time. I left that all behind, left the wigs on the ground, and came back to Ireland and set up a company called Brew Theatre, which is based here in Galway. Our first show was a silent mask piece that was in Katie's cottage. I have this thing here. Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit about my work, and I think why I wanted to do that was so you can, as you look at the work I've made in VR, you can maybe start to see the links, I suppose, or how it translates into digital. The first piece we made was called Clecha, which was based on the superstitions of the fishing community of the Claddagh. And this was a full mask silent piece with Shano singing. That was kind of site specific to Katie's cottage. I suppose something about 360 is narrative and how you tell story and how you develop character and how you get tension when you can't actually. It's not a theatre. You don't turn off all the lights except the one light on me and then you're listening to me. Audiences have agency to look all around. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different tools that I have used or I have seen to help guide an audience into picking up what you want them to pick up on, while still giving the openness of a 360 degrees so that people can look wherever they like, because that's kind of part of the gig. So this was the first piece we made, and I suppose it's silent, and you'll see with the work that I've made in the VR space, none of it is people talking to each other in 360. It's quite difficult to get conversations happening between two people in 360 without loads and loads of money. And again, money is something we'll talk about, and how much it has cost me to make the different works I'm going to show you. And then we can see some of the other works that have been made on the continent that have had multiple years and multiple hundreds of thousands to make the work. But I suppose I'm here to say, if you had €20,000, you can still make something that you can have forever to a high standard. It doesn't need to be hundreds, but it helps, doesn't it? So this was our first piece when I got back. I then made a piece called Selvage, which was a piece that I was in that I wrote, which was, again, kind of quite physical theatre. And I will skip past that to talk to you a little bit about Gull, because it is pertinent later on. Gull was a piece that I made in 2021 based on the keening, the Ban Queensha, the female keeners who in Ireland used to go and keen publicly for the dead. Quite a pagan sort of way of ritualizing death. That women would be paid to grieve in your stead, so that you as someone who was mourning could just be around the voice kind of grieved for you in some ways. They were wild women, and as you can see by the lovely Katrina, or by Kathleen Hulan there going wild in the aisles. The piece of theatre, I didn't love it, even though I wrote it and directed it. Mm-hmm. But what I loved about it was the music, working with a woman called Juliana Bloodgood, and she's important because we'll be looking and hearing her a little while. So we had made this piece that cost us all this money, and we put it on in Galway. And then you're kind of, with theatre, you're left with, and now what? What are we going to do now with it? And because I didn't love it, I don't think it was super successful as a story. I loved the music, and I kind of like, how do I get to keep that? And so what we did was we made a piece of 360 based on the music. So when we get to the piece, I'll talk a little bit about where we found the money and how we went about it. But I suppose I wanted to show you that a little misstep in one way actually turned out to something that if you put on this headset with earphones now, you can hear a lot of the music that was in this play in 2021. And that's one of the big pluses for this 360 world that I kind of find myself in. I'm going to just show you Somnium, because my beloved Jane Cassidy's here. Jane did the visuals for Somnium. Yes. And I suppose I want to show you that I just how kind of untech I am. Like, this was big tech for me, which was Jane working on. So there was screens, and there was projections, and there was lasers, and there was it was Juliana again, who's someone I work with a lot. But this would be the kind of height of my tech engagement in the theatrical space. I say that as an encouragement to people who don't might be interested in this form, but who feel like they're maybe not super techy. Like it is, there's a way in, I suppose, and I have found one. Yeah, so this was Jane's work, and Jane was with me when I was artist in residence here, and is currently artist in residence here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Great, and you can do a little plug later on, Jane, if you'd like about your. This is somebody who was on the Galway International Arts Festival 2024. Yeah, so I just kind of want to give you a little overview of the different kind of things I make, and I suppose you can see that it's quite physically theatre, and it's quite Hail Marys and safety pins in terms of super fancy.
That's right.
Hail Marys. Yeah. So to do with tech and how I learned it and how I got into it first, I was very fortunate to be part of something called Make a Move, which I have found one of these and brought it with me for anyone who is interested. In the Galway 2020 program, one of the projects on it was called Make a Move. And they chose one artist from Galway, and it was part of a Creative Europe project with 9 other international artists. And we went on three distinct different residencies for 10 days in Romania, in Croatia, and on Inisheer. And on Inisheer, every residency had its kind of theme, and the theme for the one on Inisheer was immersive tech. So they brought us 10 local artists, local to Ireland, let's say. So there was 20 artists, plus a load of tech people, which is their official name, yes. And a load of gear. 360 cameras, 180 cameras, green screens, binaural heads, lots of stuff. Generally, the 10 artists that were on the program were not at all tech people. So we were all very green going in as to like, what does this stuff do? And why is this stuff relevant to me? Or how can I make it relevant to me? And that's when basically we were put in a group of 5 and we were brought off we were just given a camera and they were like, off you go. So off we went. I had made a follow-on piece from the piece I showed you there called Kletcha, which was called The Fisher Wives, which again was a Galway 2020 project. And it was a kind of an extension of what we had made with the single female mask. And so we decided to make a big gang of them and bring them around the Spanish Arch for a day. So I had these masks, and I brought these masks with me to Inisheer on the island, not really knowing what to do with it. I just thought I'd bring them along. And suddenly we had this camera and we were in Inisheer, which was amazing because I don't know if you know Inisheer too much, but there's a sunken church. So we took the camera and the masks and the sunken church, and we made this really weird 360-degree invasion of masked people thing. But it was, masks are so, they're made out of paper and glue, and it's very in the hands. And then the tech is very much not in your hands. And the real way for me to learn why it might be interesting for me to use 360 and how my aesthetic might work in 360-degree space. I learned also that I don't know that you need someone who knows what they're doing. So we would just go, it's finished, and give them the camera, and then they would go off and do all the stuff, and then they would give it back to us in a headset, and we would watch it. And there's something about the process of the making of 360 film that I'll touch on a little bit later on. But I wanted to mention that it was an opportunity for me to immerse myself in tech, and I would encourage you, if you get a chance to do such a thing, if it's not something you know how to do so. There's a couple of links I have, the space program being one of them, which is something that I went on. If anyone's interested in finding out about this, I have it here. This was not only how I learned how to do the 360 stuff, it's also where I met Juliana, who did all my music for the piece called Ologon. And it's also where I met a woman called Maria Gil, who's based in Lisbon. And the third piece I'm going to show you with 360 is the piece I directed for her company in Lisbon, site specifically. So within this one program that I got on, it kind of expanded out in many different ways. So if you want to chat to me about it outside of this public talk, you do. Let me see if I can. Yeah. So this is the Make a Move project. and I feel like there may be Lab 1, digital practices, and there may be a little. So here's just a little. Is this okay to play this, Debbie?
What we've done is we've brought out 20 artists, international artists and national artists from Ireland, out to Inisheer, and they're going to be working and creating together 3 times over the coming year. So this is the first lab in Galway, then the whole group are going to meet again in Rijeka in Croatia in September, and then they're finally going to meet again in Târgu Mureș in Romania in December. So I'm project managing Make a Move on behalf of Galway Theatre Festival.
So really the idea behind this is to kind of upskill independent theatre makers in how to maybe incorporate digital technologies into their practice, to realise, understand VR or mapping or different things that might actually inspire them or take their practice in a different direction.
My name's Grania O'Carroll. I'm here participating in the project, one of the, 360 cameras and mapping, video mapping.
This island where they have all these
Yeah, so that goes on, but it's just to give you a flavour as kind of what the thinking was, bringing out artists who don't know what's going on to give them tech and give them space and let them make mistakes and start to get a language on cameras, the equipment, and what kind of might be useful. And it has now led to, hello and welcome. Sorry. Has now led to me being here talking to you and working with Ologon and being able to kind of talk to your, I suppose, was this thing. The next thing I want to talk about is the space program in terms of how I got to a place of being able to make the 360 world. The space program is run by Joe Mangan of the Performance Corporation. And it was the next time that we basically, I would encourage any of you who are interested in this kind of world to keep an eye on this call out, because they will bring artists. Jane was also there. It's where Jane and I met for the first time. You go to Anna McCarrick and they bring a load of tech and you're there for a week and it's a load of artists, some are in tech and some not so much in tech. And you just make and you make and you make and you make mistakes and you get to learn. Even if you're well versed in digital stuff, it's a really good way to meet other people who might be interested in it. They have a call out that's just closed, but it's actually only for past participants, so it'll be next year when they do the call, but they've been running for like 10 years. So we went there and did a lot of stuff. We had green screen paint at one point, and we were like painting ourselves and things in green screen paint. It was disappearing and stuff that you probably won't get funding for, but it's definitely good. Definitely good to just break down the barrier for digital and computers and for artists particularly. Jane would be more versed in tech than I would be, but I really didn't know a huge amount when I started off, like everybody. So that's the space program. And I'm going to just talk very briefly about the third thing around me getting going was Carlo Arts Festival. When it was under Joe Mangan, she made this digital world, a digital festival campus, effectively. So they built Carlo in a headset, the gallery and then you would go in as an avatar and be with other people who were also in there as avatars.
Explore how you can storytell when you're in 360.
So this
and
me with my little weird avatar giving a workshop on
silent
360 storytelling in a digital space in the Carlo Arts Festival 2022, maybe. This is a little bit of a side note in terms of storytelling, but I suppose it's about
art form, as we talked about.
how
If
I
your-
started
if
to
your
engage with the
sound goes
community
somewhere else,
in different ways.
There's a
and how
version that Karen
it's kind of what
made
they
of
can
I think
do
it was the
to open a
ambisonic
bit more for
version
me.
of something she made in the third iteration. And my
You don't need to hear
whole
my
body-
voice twice at the same time. That was Carlo Arts Festival, and it's Joe Mangan. She's really a person you should know if this is an interesting world to you. And I know that Con and David work with her a bit here. So that's kind of the different ways that I started to engage with tech. And then Galway 2020 came along, and there was a call out from our beloved University of Galway here, and the Ash Through project which was the Boy 2020 project for the college. And they were going to take Irish language literature written over the last 100 or so years across poetry, diaries, short stories, real nonfiction, and they picked 26 pieces, translated them from Irish into English, and then put them out all over the world to be translated into Mandarin and Portuguese, and all these universities all over the world took part in this project. So you suddenly have all these stories written a long time ago where nobody ever thought twice about Ireland being read by South Korean students. You know, it was a really successful project. And as part of that project, there was a call out for 2 artists to engage with 1, 2, 5 of these texts and make something artistic. That one was part of it too, no? The birds.
It was, yes, tangentially, yeah.
Tangentially, yeah. So we applied and we were successful. And what we were going to do was put people on a bus to Connemara and I think get them to walk around, and like all this stuff would happen in the landscape. So it was this really big idea for like 20,000 euros. So we applied and we got it, and we were really delighted. And then we were like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? I think we were just being optimistic, maybe around. We were starting off. We weren't hugely experienced as makers. I suppose I should say Jill Murray is my producer, and we worked together as group. So we got this money. COVID happened. We couldn't do what we said we were going to do, but they were happy to give us the money if we did something else. So we had these texts, we had COVID, and I had just done this thing on Inisheer with the VR. So suddenly it was like, hold on, maybe we could do something with 360, 180 degree storytelling plus these texts, because it's quite COVID friendly in that you don't need actors in a room. You don't need audiences to be in a room with actors. And so it began. And what came of that was Ar Ais Arís. And I'm just going to show you a little image and talk to you about that. So this is really where I learned all of the things that I...
With Vinted's new categories, you can now sell even more.
There is, I don't know if they're going to give me 1 or 2. I made a piece, not really knowing how to make a piece. And that piece is still, as I say, something that we're traveling with and has kind of gone quite well for us. So it started with me meeting a man called Paul. And Paul was involved in something. I don't know if you guys were involved in it. He was in here making, what was that course called?
The Immersive, the course that we did with you.
Oh, yes. Future landscapes.
Future landscapes. So there's a future landscapes thing that happened here at the university. Paul was in it. I think Marianne is here with us. Met Paul. I kind of said, I need someone who knows how to do cameras. Was put in touch with Paul, phoned him, hired him after a phone call, met him, and that was kind of it. So we had these texts, and we started to talk about storytelling. And how are you going to sit people in immersive film in headsets based on Irish language literature and immigration to do with an engagement with Galway because of the Galway 2020 project? So the text that we chose, most of them remained. One of them was sidelined, one of them else was brought in. And what we ended up doing was making a 16-minute long, 180-degree Oscar. The 180-degreenness was a deliberate on two fronts. One being, I'm a theatre person. I was a bit scared of dealing with what's happening behind you and how to like not have people just kind of spinning around. So by cutting it into 180 degree and you sit down and watch it, knowing there's nothing behind you is much more like a theatre situation. So I thought if I'm going to try a whole new way of telling a story, I'm going to try and make it easy for myself by not 360. I moved on to 360, but this is a 180 piece. The second thing was, at the time, we had an Insta360, which if you can imagine, there's 2 cameras going one way and the other way to catch a 360 thing. If you flip them both to face the same way, you get a little bit more depth because it's like 2 eyes coming at the same object, which gives a much richer flavor to what you're seeing. So off we went. I got my performers in. Victoria McCormack, who you'll see now, Stephanie Dufresne, and Anna Malarkey. And so we had 3 stories. I was interested in female perspectives or female narratives because as hard as the Ashley project did try to have female Irish language writers as part of the programme, turns out that no one wrote a word as a woman in Irish. If you were to believe the canon, it was like, it's very male. So we chose Martin O'Kine, whose piece on Blini Jake Doyeg, Porco Connor's piece Nora, and then the contemporary poetry of Nuala Ní Gonal, all with 3 individual females. And we kind of made it in COVID times. We had a tiny team, which brings me to like process. So it was literally, the camera was like this on a little tripod. And I had an assistant, a costume person, me, and the performer. I'll just show you a little, we're not going to watch it. I would just like to show you what it looks like in terms of the different locations and why the storytelling, how I kind of came at the storytelling. First piece. During the combat. So this is based on a bleed egg. Basically, to make it something very simple so that audience will to give people that aren't used to it, and in Ireland we're not used to figure out. Music production. Process-wise, I played around with different things. In terms of that went out. You can imagine you were sitting and basically there's nothing happening on either side of her. She is the absolute focus, and you're positioned so that you're on island. So it's very much like there's something else to look at. So I'm just and what you're getting narratively is spring. Things we're obviously dealing with the Irish language and not. If you do know that. We're all basically behind the camera in 180 degree. We'll have a look at 360 in a little while, and I can point out where I'm hiding behind a wall or like underneath a window. But for this, it was 180, so it was much easier. You could just all stand behind the camera. So as an audience, this is your way in. And it's also kind of my way in. This is my first piece in 180. So I'm also trying to learn how do you keep audiences with you to tell a story or to give a feeling? And 360 is really good for feeling. It's really good for music. It's really good for strong color. It's probably trickier when it comes to like deep psychological storytelling between 2 different people, because you do have that moment of remove. I have seen work done by it, and it can work for sure. But I suppose if you're ever going into 360, you got to sit with why 360 and why not 2D film. When you can zoom in and you can really point the viewer to what you're trying to watch. And I suppose therefore it's this kind of world suits what I like to do in terms of masks and puppets and kind of more physical theatre worlds. I'm going to just show you the next thing we did in terms of storytelling, which is to give a bit of text before each piece.
Everyone deserves a Moonpig card this Valentine's.
Before all 3 of the things, to give a little bit of context for what the pieces were that you were about to watch. You'll see that in some of the work of other artists that I'm going to show later on. Using text using reading is a very good way in VR, because you're not kind of having to have actors talking. So just very simple bits of text that allow people to kind of get a flavor for what you're saying without being too explicit is something that within the 360 world is a surefire way of guiding people without telling them exactly where to look. This is the second piece. It was shot in Mayo. Up the mountain, raining. It stopped raining. There was nobody up there. Luckily, the thing with the cameras, there's nowhere to hide. So at one point there was clips. There's like a head of like this tourist kind of, she's meant to be like lonely and sad. So Jill, the producer, is actually just kind of behind there, leaving people off. This is something. Show you this one.
All sols neig look at Marcus. Who she checked the wine. Maar dan is dat Jorie niet bij het resultaat lopen. Hier ook in het beeld was toch nog.
It's about to happen. Third piece up there, you can't just that. So then that would encourage you to look right, and then you find. And what you help why people are where to look is obviously feet splitting into left and right. So that there's a joy to it, kind of going where and finding her the playfulness. 60, it can get a little bit more like this is really, really specific, and we'll show some examples of using light and then using characters, using props. There's different ways that you can really make sure that there's no other way to look. But this was she's kind of down here, so kind of a little bit looking for her, but it's not too intense. That's Nora. I'm just going to briefly show you her piece based on from our film. This is Anna Malarkey. She wrote a song based on Nuala's poem. So the first piece is very Owen kind of party.
No one ain't so John,
sitting with this woman and she's quite up close to you and you're with her. It's really very high tech. It's called to kind of come in when you're actually in. Small little things that you can make really poetic, like slowly she starts to drown, that the tech is really good for it, that you just like doing in theater is just really hard. Paul did that really quickly. And yeah, so look, this is the Ar Ais Arís, 180 degree. So I know we're here talking 360, but I learned a lot about storytelling from this, which brought me to the next piece, which is called Ologon. Ologon, this cost about 20 grand. Start to finish, to pay off or to pay the actors, performers, and all the tech people, and to buy the headsets. The headsets we used for this Don't be jealous, Colin. Are Oculus Goes. They don't make them anymore. They're really old. We show this work outside because the wind is part of it and the weather is part of it, and it helps you to kind of go into that Connemara kind of thing. And what we've gotten out of being outside is huge in terms of people saying, it's so weird, it got sunny at that moment when it got sunny in the thing, and you're like, no, it didn't, Liam. Or like it started to rain once in this year, and this one woman was like, please, come in. She's like, no, please. Break our equipment, come inside. The weather really helps, and you don't get to do that in theatre, obviously, unless it's like a site-specific piece, which is a whole other thing. We'll say this, if you don't know Con and David, do introduce yourselves to them. They have great equipment here, but it's fancier, newer equipment, and you can't buy these anymore because this is really old school. We were talking like iPod kind of floppy disk. But they're the only ones that can go outside, and they're like pure hardy. Just collapses. No. We show the work outside, and it helps the storytelling. Sure. So we bought these on with the 20 grand. That includes buying 6 of these, headphones and all that. And now we still use them because we only show the work outside. It's not the most high tech, as you can see. You can see that we didn't make it with a lot of money, but it works in the right context. I wouldn't make it like this where I'm making it now, but it's kind of standing up. And I think part of that is that we're able to take it outside and just immerse people in the senses along with the kind of whatever. That be really okay. Do you want to just take a minute? Yes. No way. I'll go quick. The second piece is Ologon, and we never show this because I don't like it. This is one of the only times I've shown it publicly ever since we launched it. This is the 360. This is my foray into first go at 360 with the same team, with Paul, who did the camera for this. Bank of Ireland begin together, put out a fund for 10 grand for everyone in every county. One artist got 10 grand to make something. And so we applied through Mayo with Paul, and we got it. So we got 10 grand to make, I'm about to show you, which is less money, obviously. But I think we had all the gear and stuff, and we kind of knew what we were doing. So the thinking behind it was Gull, the music is keening, lamentation, female Irish language expression of grief. So what I proposed to them was that we would go on to landscapes in Mayo that have a heavy past. So we're near killings or famine walks, and to sing in these spaces and to make a VR out of it. Kind of a little bit more in the music video territory. Excuse me. But what we did do was do lots of tricks that you can do on our film. So, and I'll show you some of the more successful ones. Got the singers to go into a studio. We recorded all the songs, and then we brought Juliana out to these places, and we filmed her in these different places, kind of singing and being a character. What we sacrificed was any sort of concept of who she is. So when you come to like narrative storytelling, she's a woman, she's every woman. She's not really given any sort of context, which is something that I but again, for a way to maintain and have the music, I'm very glad to have it. We launched it in the Linen Hall in Castlebar, because obviously Castlebar is in Mayo, and we put it on these headsets, and we put everyone in swivelly chairs, and they swiveled to their heart's content, and then we showed it again. It's one draft shy of being finished, and I will show you terrible bit that I hate, because we can talk about why. What's happening in your ears is really surround sound, so we're working on kind of a submerging it. Took over this handball alley for the in post-production. Paul like filled in the wall, so it looks like there's actually no way. Shit, it would all run away, and then she would just do it, and then we'd like there was a little live feed, but it's very hard to see this. Decided to do with the first video, which is this one. Behind you and in front of you, and then up above you is this strange sort of kind of as we look. Do you mean that it's going back 3 generations? These women are still singing. Oh. And then, I mean, very simply. More and more so she's slowly advancing, and obviously the other big things with 3 is how the truth far away. So I think we tried this. By the end, she's really. So basically, one of the things with 360 is you can just re-record. It's why we decided to go for a closed room. We have control on the space. Shoot it 6 times. You put all 6 on top of each other. You cut her in, you cut her out, and suddenly, and again, if you're interested in watching it, you can watch it when we finish. You're totally submerged in her voice and her body with this kind of light going on. So it's quite evocative, and is one of the reasons why 360 is really cool. I think if you get it right, it can really do something that 2D film and theatre just can't do. So that was one of the ways in which we decided to try and get people into what we were doing around the heavy spaces and the need to sing and to wail. I'm not sure. So one of the less successful ones. I'm not sure what's going on with this. We took her out to a stream. There's multiples of her. She's there. She's walking. The only thing I want to show you in this is that we did this kind of leaves thing. There's leaves falling, which again is kind of like that post-production. It's clear in the video, but this kind of it's almost as if the whole leaves are blowing through an empty space while she's kind of singing in it. It was a one-person lament. We then went full-blown 360 on it has drugs and this kind of quite trippy piece where it was only one of her, but it's kind of done all this mirror kind of thing. See, with 360, if you're going to be making it so much for free by being outside, particularly in Ireland, particularly in Connemara. Landscapes can be so bizarre with just a little bit of tinkering. Where the music also gets a bit broken down. So again, this was us playing around with effects to help with the music. This is now coming towards. Did shoot a scene to work. We didn't have it in. So we did all this work on it and eventually just didn't work. The problem with this one that we're about to show you is that long song and keeping. So basically we do this very unnecessary cut where we go from something very strange to something very... It just jars, watching it just doesn't... What is quite cool is she gets into a lake and we kind of do this multiples thing again. Kind of feels a bit like you're in a lake. It's coming in and out of water. Got Paul to do just as a finale for the piece. Okay, I'll talk to 1 o'clock and then we can just take a little minute. Super close to you. Music has kind of done its own thing, and she. Again, once you're in a headset, it becomes a kind of murmuration, and it kind of floats through quite effective in the headset. So that is Ologon. We've managed to take the music. We now have the music. You're now listening to the music that was made a long time ago, but it's not on our website, and we never really talk about it because we don't. I learned a lot of things about it. Thanks, but yeah. I just apologize for it when I show it. Again, if we had another draft, if we had more money, we would have made, I think the idea is there, but it just didn't. Tech is also as non-expensive as I maybe made it sound. You need to pay technicians and redrafts and uploads, and it takes forever. And I think there's something about theatre people and working in the theatre industry where if you agree to work on a show together and everyone runs out of money, chances are you're still going to do it because we're all suckers for the work, let's say. Whereas you go into tech, technicians also, tech people are kind of like, well, if there's no money, then I'm not. It's a different relationship, or certainly how I found working, and Paul is great, and it's nothing to do with Paul. It's to do with it being time consuming, and you need tech, and particularly when we look at some of the work by other people later on that's much bigger in scope and much more created in Unreal Engine, or there's very little film involved. It's so expensive. It's so expensive, and troubleshooting it is really intense. I'm going to just finish with the third piece that I have made, which I made last year. This thing here. This is called No Tempo por Agua, and this is made in Lisbon, shot on location in the Wash House. And basically there's all over Lisbon and Portugal, there's these houses, these wash houses where women used to go and wash the clothing that are now kind of defunct. And one of these spaces has been given to a theatre company in Portugal, and they asked me to come in and direct a piece of VR site-specific to the wash house. And when it was first premiered in Lisbon, it was premiered in the wash house. So you came in and you sat down in a place and put the headset on, and you kind of... the script was written by Maria Gil, who I work with and I met on Make a Move. And again, it was shot on a very simple 360 camera, working with a group called Roger. The process being the same. You put it on a headset, you look through it, or it doesn't. There's something about not being able to edit in real time with 360. You press record and you hope for the best. So this is the wash house. So again, you 360 degree, you can look wherever you like, but obviously I'm telling you where to look now because there's only one person. So you eventually start to settle into what she's doing. All three pieces, as you've seen, have water. Water is really effective. Water, wind, the elements, fire, all that stuff is really great in the VR headset. Slow movement. And again, it's back to making masks out of paper. Like, I do like that elemental stuff. I'm not a kind of gamer or that aesthetic of me. So you follow, basically this woman that has come in a contemporary dress, wash the clothing, and as she does, she is kind of magically joined by, she starts to sing an old Portuguese, I suppose, washerwoman song. And slowly, in a technique you would have seen previous, women appear. It was really hard to get her to sit exactly as it was in the second thing. Things like that are really, really difficult. Like, obviously in film, it's not difficult at all, but in 360, it's unforgiving. Oh, I'll tell you about these women. This is a local community cast of women from the neighborhood who are the most gorgeous women in a local time. So it's like trying to get one or two. And again, it's not about being. But so the camera's in the water. You're basically surrounded by singing women who are watching. They're real life washing things. This woman is basically on her own vibe. You can see that there's like choreography and dancing, and she's just like. And it was really. We also asked them not to dress up colourful and like delighted with herself. It is more authentic. It is, but there's a bit now where they start hitting the thing. We had this woman here who was running the singers and stuff. Is that your job? It's like steaming. I shouldn't be shaming her. She was lovely. She was lovely. Problem is that you can't just cut the bits you like and then cut. Like, I learned around community cast and singing and all that stuff. Like, it's you only have a certain amount of time, and the problem is these lights. Cloudy, and then the light will completely change, and there's a certain amount of lighting that you just can't fix in post-production. So using natural light and wanting to cut in on it is really something to consider when making They're not even looking around. Having a look at the headset just for she was the best, and we had the best time. So we then we brought younger performers in from Maria teaches in the university. These are ex-university students as a kind of an idea of like handing down a tradition, something that these younger people just don't know anything about washing clothes. this. So this is a memory that this woman real life had about child going to wash their clothes, and you went underneath this train station, and then it's a really beautiful story. And so you'd be like, just kind of look, like smile at the camera. She's
O Rio dos Mortais, porque nascia lá em cima.
So this is the first bit of it. Light is really important. I think about light. If the light's going to change, or not. If you're having the singing was live. We had microphones hidden throughout the space. There's microphones down here. We are all hiding in this tiny room here.
Cada uma tinha a sua laje ou pedra, lisa, voltada para o rio, e ali estavam elas.
We're not dealing with professionals. It can be tricky because, as you can see, someone's just on their own vibe, and it's part of the charm for sure.
It's all kind of fog, and we see both sides.
So it's effectively like you're in this room, like you're in the middle of the room. It's long, yeah.
Yeah, long, and then you see both sides. One side, like.
No, in this it has to split somewhere, so so you only see everything once.
What we're seeing there is it what's in front of you, and what's behind you.
Well, it depends. It depends because it's 360. There's no center point really, as in.
No, just to understand the shape of the room.
Is the pool long?
The pool is on. Excuse me. The pool is on. There's kind of three little mini pools. There is a natural bit of wall in the middle, like you'll see there.
It's kind of like a globe of the world, flattened as a map. You know,
it is flattened as a map.
Yeah. Kind of like okay.
Yeah, it is. So in the space, you're in the space. You can see everything, like something else to think about
there.
If you move your head, so
the headset.
Yeah. So basically, there's all these women singing behind me, but I'm looking at you guys, and then I turn around and I'm looking at it follows.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not understanding.
Is it?
Yeah, it's on them and it's on the ones here. Yeah. This was about the world climate crisis, about no water, and this was a kind of idea around what would happen if there was no water. So the second part of this is completely different, in that there's an astronaut who's come from the future, and there is no water anymore in Ireland, in the world. We got a professional dancer in. Again, smoke, super effective in 360 because it starts to slowly come at you and you start to maybe think. So this is a different day.
Where does it go?
It goes down the drains.
Okay.
So these are drains. Yeah, so these are natural walls. Filling it took. And then first scene with just the girl on her own, shot it, and it was cloudy. And then with all the women, it was sunny. So then the next day we had to go back and shoot the thing to fill it up again. Sunny day. Then you're literally looking outside going, okay, it's going to be, there's no clouds coming for another 4 minutes. Go. Like crazy stuff you don't have to deal with. So this is an astronaut person. I'm just going to show you a little bit of the effects. See the sound where it's giving you things. The mystery about, excuse the shoes are like cloud shoes. I don't know. Sure, just didn't. So again, the storytelling's quite slow. Hello. Sorry. Oh, you did this thing. You just did it. She gets into the pool, and then I just. Straight out. Superimpose 2 floors. So what you're seeing above is the young woman, and below is the astronaut. And then the whole thing breaks down into like planetary planetary kind of, again, it's using the technology because it starts to disintegrate. So something to say about this in a 360 world. You come in, you get your headset, you're sitting in the pool with no water. You watch the piece, then you take the headset off and you're escorted to the back garden place of this wash house where you're given earphones, and then you then hear a monologue from the astronaut's point of view, remembering what it was to touch water. Mm-hmm. So it starts to take the storytelling out of only relying on the headset and into something that's a bit more interdisciplinary, or at least formally is a little bit different. With the Ar Ais Arís, we take it outside, we give a whole little spiel. But it's just to say that this piece actually took the work into a love letter to water, let's say, in headphones, and then you were free to kind of go and do your thing. So it is was an expansion of just seeing the piece in a headset. It means that if you ever were to show it, you have to have two separate spaces. I'll talk a little bit about actors, real life actors in work like this after the break. But this feels like a good point to. Yeah.
To be done, or
hi, Betty. Goodbye.
just see the bathroom.
Oh, right.
Some question.
Yes.
With all the video, like, can you ever preview it while it's being filmed in a headset, or are you always just previewing it?
We're always previewing it on a thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe now as time has gone on, but like the bandwidth that it takes, like the connection to the internet, all that stuff is huge to be able to see it live.
Well, you couldn't stitch it.
Live stitch it?
Yeah.
Ish. Certainly when we were making these ones, we were watching them on little screens, and then we'd stop recording and you'd move it across. Like if you've wires, it's much easier, but often you can't have it all connected with wires, and it has to be, if you want to do it quick, it takes ages, or you just need a lot of space.
With the Insta360 Pro, there's a live link handset and your phone. You got an app on your phone.
Yeah.
Pop it into the handset, and that's how you preview.
But you're watching it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that is rather than a headset, yeah.
Yeah. So
definitely done live stuff.
And we did a bit of it in Tyrone Guthrie, yeah. But I think anyway, I have found it to really watch it. It needs to be taken off the camera, put on a headset, and you need to put on the headset.
Oh my.
Did you say it's two Insta cams that you have set up for the 180?
No, same camera.
Oh.
So it's one camera which is really tiny.
Yeah.
But it's because it's a 360 camera. One camera's going this way and one camera's going this way to catch a whole 360.
Yeah. We can show it. We have one here.
Yeah. Here's one we made earlier. Sorry.
We're projector there. So did you were seeing stuff live?
Yes. Yeah, I made a camera. We had it on. What years ago? I don't know what.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
does that answer your question? Yeah. Great. So it's really small and handy, and you literally goes in a small man bag. The fancy one that they have here is this Insta360 Pro 2, which is this huge thing. Did you use it? Yeah, it's like 8 cameras, I think.
Yeah.
So it's 8 cameras, right? So it's back when I was making Ar Ais Arís, it wasn't. Yeah, they're fancy and expensive, and they take a lot of power to run and a lot of space. And
just wait a little bit. I guess we're showing.
Look at the batteries up to Malmeen to use that.
It's not actually too bad. Yeah, there was no, because there's no electricity. Weirdly, they're again.
That's the GoPro version, so it's similar to the one you were talking about there. So it's got 2 lenses. That's got 8.
And that has 8. So that there's something about really strong definition that can be a little bit disconcerting almost in the headspace. Like it's almost one step back is better in a way, I think, because it's so realistic that it can maybe, depending on the story you're telling, you really need to know people who know what they're doing around the eight on the one. Whereas it's a bit more, possibly easier to get your head around a kind of 2-camera situation, in my opinion. Thank you, assistants. So I want to just start. Any other questions at this point? There'll be questions.
When does the technology get in the way of the story? At what point you've got a budget of 20 grand? Now, obviously, the advantage of technology is you have something that's going to last for 100 years and can be replayed in venues and whatever. But, if somebody said, here's 20 grand, I want you to do something, you kind of spend 18 grand of it in technology, or do you spend 2 grand of it in technology and 18 grand?
You spend 2 grand on technology, you find people who have technology that can give it to you for free. You come into the Centre for and you get people on board that are into the project.
Oh, I know, but like you described in the Washer House, the days of trying to get the lighting right and waiting for the sun to shine and emptying and filling the pool in order to, like those are constraints of the technology.
Yes, they absolutely are.
That had nothing to do with
they absolutely
story
are. They absolutely are. But I mean, if you put it against film or theater, it's much more straightforward in that you're doing all that stuff in a day. With theater, you have a set and you have lights, and microphones and sound. So the whole time it takes to make theater is much more laborious. We would have made that piece, No Tempo por Agua, in probably 8 days. Yeah. They went off and rehearsed singing, and I worked with the actors, and we'd film it, and we'd film it again. And you need to know what you're doing, I suppose. Like, joy is that you can rehearse it without the technology. You can't really rehearse a play towards the end without the lights and the sound and all that stuff. So it's much cheaper in that respect. But again, we're using cheap technology. If you start to use the Insta, you see like it's more expensive. Then your computers need to be really heavy going. Yeah. Then if you go into some of the work we're about to see now around actually building stuff in an Unreal Engine and putting it in the headset, then that's you're talking huge money.
Or even to show it in this room. To get 360 projectors or, main projectors both sides, like you're talking huge money to...
Look, it's huge money. And that is why you're not seeing a lot of work in Ireland made by Irish people. Yeah. Because it's really expensive and we're not as clicked into Europe as other countries are. The North is quite good. They have a lot more money and they're making stuff that's kind of more on an international kind of platform. The Irish industry is just behind. And it's like, these guys have started now that
but
the tech is here. That's one thing. The process
in terms of trying to get the thing, get a bit of momentum going.
Absolutely, but then the process is equally time consuming, especially if you're doing anything other than going on location and filming in 360. That's, and then your post production is coloring and adding the audio. That's not super time consuming if you've someone who knows what they're at.
Try it again.
And I suppose that's one of the things that I was hoping you guys would take from this is we've done it. We've done all of those 3 things with not a huge amount of time and not a huge amount of money. Now, you can see it because it's not sexy in terms of what you might see in some of the pieces that I'll show you, or like the new stuff that's coming out. No one uses Go-To. Immersive film has its constraints. But I think more and more theater people, storytellers, are coming to medium. And I suppose back to your question, when does it get in the way? I only made a Ar Ais Arís because I had to spend money. And now I really enjoy it. But I wouldn't have probably gone into VR had I not had to. And then from Ologon, you see that it's like, well, we make the whole thing a weird sphere, or it starts to rain, or that's playful stuff you can do in tech that you just can't do in real life. There's a lot to be said for that and the immersion of it. In terms of audiences, they're putting on headsets, they're alone. It's a different thing to a theatrical experience. We don't have the language, and the film flat, the immersive part of the film flat has now started. Please go. Con's doing a great job picking work that is doing well internationally and bringing it to Galway on a headset. Some of the pieces are on these headsets here. So some amazing work. Like it's an amazing tool. Like let's say Teacher Lee, which is on what I know about Teacher Lee, all I know about Teacher Lee, which is on one of the headsets, uses a lot of real footage and videos of China and text and visuals to tell its story. I think I have a little link to it there. Loads of money, loads of time, loads of universities involved, but it only tell that story that way. Like, I think sometimes with Irish makers and storytellers, if you don't see it, if you don't see the tech used well, you don't think that it's able to do the thing that it's doing. A lot of the VR stuff is for health or for promotional videos or whatever. Whereas when you see it done well for just art, Emperor, beautiful piece of work, Song for Passers-by, which I'll speak a little bit about. You see it, and I think that's why I tend to go to Venice every year, the XR Festival of Venice, because I think very, very well programmed, and you can see it reminds you why this is. Because 5 years ago we were told that VR was going to change the world and everyone would have a headset. 3 years ago, last year, we're all being told that it's coming. It's not coming. Maybe it's going to remain niche, but I think when people start to see really good work that could only be done in this, like the immersion you can get from a headset 360 is something you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that. But in terms of people in the room and having an ambition to produce something immersive,
yes,
to produce something that's of international quality in 360 headsets, is probably beyond us. But there's kind of somewhere between.
I think what's happening
and 3D.
Well, what's happening now is as time goes on and the technology changes, it's getting more and more accessible.
Yeah.
That AI has come along and is making things much more straightforward. Now that you can be like, generate me this, and it'll generate you this. Like that 5 years ago would be crazy, and you'd have to pay someone millions. Suddenly you're able to go. So there's a wall, there's a barrier in around the headsets and turning them on and how to that is absolutely and will always be a barrier because you need to learn literacy on the tech that you're using. But more and more, what are they called? Anagram? No, the ones in Belfast, company in Belfast that are just revolutionized how you can make film in a kind of a 3D animation thing where you. Yes. Have you ever had a look at it?
She was chatting them last week about
their
application.
Yeah, which is amazing. I saw it up in Render 2 years ago, maybe. And so you're in there as the director. The actors are in there in headsets. The lighting people are in there, and you're all in this. I know it sounds kind of strange. You're all in this digital room. The actors, I don't even know how I could describe it. There's a camera. So the camera person is in this room. That's not a room because we're all in headsets in our own houses, deciding where the camera is. The actors are doing the thing. The director is invisible. The cameraman's invisible. The lighting people are invisible, tinkering away at the lights. The actors are seen. And so basically like a theater thing, I bring my pals in. We all have a role. But what you end up with is television quality children's work. Sorry, what you could say? Animotive? Animotive is what, yeah. Have a look. It couldn't believe how streamlined and easy it was for something that 5 years ago would have cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of viewers and taken so much time. Fundamentally, I think what the tech doesn't have is storytellers. You see so much gaming work, and even in the likes of Venice, it's X-Men or it's kind of programmers showing off the cool things they can do with aliens, but you don't kind of care. That's maybe I don't care. Let's say not everybody. I don't. But if you get a good story, one of the best pieces I saw last year was basically it's a step pedometer, like an exercise step thing, and you put the headset on with the steps, and you wear this strange robot thing, just walking up these steps, walking towards nothing, and you're going up and up and up, and you're getting closer and closer to nothingness, and it was poetic, but actually it's very quite simple. I think what's happening is for people like me and theatre people and visual artists and dancers, it's becoming more accessible. Now we've all this tech here and go, how to use the tech, that needs to be figured out, or you need to get people who are interested in it and working on it. But the only way to really figure it out is to do it, and your hands on a camera and get your hands on someone who knows how to do it. And
but even just that, like if you have the camera and we have the half a dozen headsets, but like to show that to an audience of 200 during the arts festival.
Well, so we were, Ar Ais Arís was in the arts festival, and with 6 headsets, with these headsets, it was in the arts festival 2021.
Yeah.
And we did every 45 minutes, 6 people.
Yeah.
So, you might serve 36 people in a day.
Yeah.
But that's always going to be the way with headsets. It's expensive. But I could run that every day forever and have 30 people watch it forever.
Yeah.
And a theatre show will.
Is there another dimension using holographic projectors where you can actually give it to a bigger audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can have domes, you can have domes. We don't have domes. I think Trinity might have a dome or some version of a dome.
You can also do, we had guy come in here, he has a little traveling dome.
Yeah.
So they are.
You can absolutely have a dome. What you miss?
I saw a colossal show back in the 70s in the Hayden Planetarium.
Yeah.
Started off with just the astral scape, spacescape, and then it went into light shows and all that.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. This back in the 70s.
But look at U2 in Vegas. They have this dome thing where the visuals are meant to be incredible. It's LED gone wild. It costs millions. And 1 and 2, what you have in a headset is.
Well, I'm sure it cost millions at that time for Hayden Planetarium. Would have had it.
Yeah, would have had the money. And we just don't have it here.
Technologies today, I would have thought
to get that quality, on big, in big is it's the screen. It's what the screen is made of. It's costing you a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Because the cameras, the camera they have here is top quality.
Yeah.
But it's where you show it.
And Moore's Law, the prices are dropping.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at Quest 2, which are the one down from Quest 3, they've both here. Are you getting them for $250 now? No, not wild. What I would say is headsets allow
ways of getting away from the headset altogether.
But I mean, you're making it because of the headset though too. You don't want to use a headset and use film. It's much more straightforward. Immersing 200 people at the same time. It's what they're doing in London.
It's probably just more where my head is.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And you have the Van Gogh show and the what's his name? You have these shows now that are touring Dali. You go to the Dali show where it's all screened and it's his work brought to life, and it immerses you in a way. But you're still sitting in a room like this watching a screen. Yeah. Whereas weirdly with the Ar Ais Arís, you're just with this woman in Connemara, particularly when it's if it's windy outside, you feel like you might be with her. And it didn't cost an arm and a leg, and it didn't take a huge amount of time. Now, I'm not saying it's great. I don't mean that. What I mean is, if I can do it, most people can.
In terms of distribution,
yeah,
you said you are moving your movies now around Canada, etc.
Yeah.
How is the situation, the space? Is more festivals dedicated to 360 or?
Yeah. So what have we done? This was playing in Finglas Library for a few months there last year. They approached us. We rented it to them. We sent them a link. They paid us. It was available if you went into the libraries across Fingal County Council. Canada and America, it was through theaters there. And as part of their program, we were outside. Again, we could come with our headsets. If you go, and now these guys, more and more people have headsets. Festivals aren't really buying headsets. Performance Corporation, who we spoke about earlier, they had Emperor 101 in Dublin Theatre Festival. Cush Game, the dance company, now have basically what they've done is they had a dance piece, they put a 360 camera in the middle of it, and they recorded it, and now they bring it off around the world. One of the first videos I saw when I got my Quest 2 was a puppet show in Canada that they filmed. They just with a live audience, they put a 360 camera. So you're sitting there, but you can look at the audience, real people. And so there's these 2 people who were not having a good time. So you're watching the puppet show, and it's kind of badly lit, and you can't really see it, but you're just end up watching these 2 being like, it's like, who's serving? That's serving. That's older. But in terms of just distributing it, like the Quest 2, you can go into the Oculus shop or whatever, and the Oculus have all of these experiences that they've bought that you can then access. So we didn't sell this to them, but some of the economy behind this kind of work is that you can sell it into Oculus. But it's like films. Films don't really make, unless you're big box office, short films or foreign films or indie films. They don't. The money of them is tricky. I don't know if this is money making, but like Norris Theatre. Yes.
Just blur one of the pieces you're going to talk about. Just it's currently screening in Canada. It's a kind of theatre. There's live performances, but it's $50 a ticket, Canadian ticket, and they have like 10 shows a day. So there isn't an ecosystem here, but in other places increasingly.
And it's building. Like the fact that we were in the Arts Festival, the fact that Dublin Theatre Festival are programming it. But I think what's happening in Ireland is the money isn't there to make the work to a standard, and people will give it a go once. Like people will, but it's the likes of the Film Flat. Like the joy of it is we have the equipment here. You can just pay for the piece, download it onto the thing, and then we all get to watch it. Like Blur is a little bit different because it's live actors, similar to Emperor 101 from Formats Corporation. They have live performers. Then it's expensive because it's kind of like theatre, but you've got tech. And I cannot tell you, troubleshooting the tech, I don't have to deal with it because I don't need Wi-Fi to show you my work. Emperor needs Wi-Fi. The first day of Dublin Theatre Festival, Arts Council have come to see it. Wi-Fi falters. They can't see the work. And that's tech. Sorry, I'm just going to move along because I know that.
Sorry, quick question. Talking about tech, so what you think the headsets to this library?
No, they have their own headsets.
Okay, so you put it on their own.
So I sent them the link and they downloaded it, much like here. You just send them a.
Are the people able to just put it on and play?
So it depends. The way it runs is different in terms of there's programs whereby it's all centralized to a computer. Okay. So everyone puts on a blank headset, and then when everyone's sitting down and ready, you press play, and then the film starts for everybody.
Yeah. I
like to do it one by one because we give a bit of spiel about the work. Again, because it's also completely Oscoilga.
Sorry.
People are the Portuguese one. Everyone puts it on, play. Okay. Yeah. And that's a very straightforward system and costs not a huge amount of money.
Also, I know there are companies that they do that for you if the event is very big. They come with these big cases with all the gear, and you have not to be worried.
Yeah. We're going to run out of time, so I wanted to kind of be a bit more specific in terms of 360 storytelling, and little bits that we might have touched on. Things to take in mind, or things to maybe keep in mind when you're making this kind of work, and hopefully by having shown you some examples, you'll have it'll make sense. So first of all, with 360 storytelling, I think you really need to answer why. Why is it not 180? Why does it need to be 360 degrees? What about it has to immerse you in the round? Because 180 degree, you still kind of get a sense of being in a space, but it's much easier to focus the mind. And then and we'll look at some pieces that use Blender and Unity and all those like fancy nice things where it can take you 2 days to make a ball drop when you look at it and it's very satisfying when it does, but it takes you days and loads of money. Why? It's back to like you are going to hit problems with tech. They often say empathy is one of the big reasons why 360 is interesting. You can get into other people's perspectives. There's something about Ar Ais Arís that if you never walk up Mayo again in your life, you can get a sense of being up on top of Mayo. You can be a sense of being in the water. Like it allows it's transportative, which is a big reason as to why. There's also a weird thing of like those women singing will get older and then they'll be able to go back and sit in themselves singing which of course is you could film someone doing it, but there's something about feeling a bit more present in a surround. Your cameras, which we talked a little bit about, do you need to have 8 cameras? Can 2 cameras do your job? 2 cameras is more straightforward. 8 cameras is going to give you much more depth. What have you access to and who have you access to? Do you have access to someone who knows what they're doing? Is the person you have access to also learning? just because you can doesn't mean you should. In terms of fancy tech, if you can do it with simpler tech, it'll make your life so much easier. I think a lot of people would tell you that. Who is the camera is a question, and I'm not suggesting that I have answered it in the work that I've showed you, but often, like, who are you as an audience member? You're going to be telling a 360 story. It's voyeuristic, obviously, in the kind of work, but let's say with Anna's piece in Ar Ais Arís, when she's sitting looking at you, we possibly weren't as successful as we could have been. But the idea was that you are in some way her therapist. So she's talking to you about this feeling sometimes when she goes to the bathroom and suddenly it's flooded with water and she feels drawn back to mer people. And there's a whole story of that. And the idea being that we've set it in her eye line and in a few little props to encourage you to think, okay, I'm listening to this woman's confessions, let's say. There's a question around who the camera is and if that's important. Whereas, let's say with Ologon, it's like this is a music video. We're celebrating the fact that you can look all around you. What is the focus and is there an arc? I think that we'll look at it a little bit. I might just start to show pieces as we talk about these things because it might make a little bit more sense. The first person outside of myself that I'd like to talk about is Craig. Craig is calling us to talk about Blur, but I'm actually not going to talk about Blur so much because it is a bit more blended in the storytelling. He made a triptych of films that are 360 that have done really, really well. This is one of them called A Simple Silence. He comes from theatre, big theatre sets, filmed in 360 that with moving bits, but it's really about the actors. I contact with the viewer. Thematic. It's not so much narrative in that into the shot. It's quite beautiful. But he's someone, if you're interested in this world of film specifically, Craig Quintero is the place you should go. Do you ever have that? No, sometime.
Yeah, we're not that program, it's Joe's program.
Yes, okay. East Asian Film Festival is coming to Ireland. Made a piece called Blur, but it's kind of more bigger in scope than these three ones that are probably 9 minutes long. This one's about silence, super strange, Taiwanese, very visual, very, very beautiful person and maker. Craig Quintero. This is the second one, and you'll see that basically
Get Sky TV, Netflix,
and he uses a lot of the same actors, and it's all about lighting and these are trailers. He doesn't give away. It's like suddenly the curtains open, and it's very theatre done well. I really encourage you. Check him out. Never get Asia. This all I know about Teacher Lee is something that we have here, or that the centre has. And this is now getting more complicated. So obviously you've started to build.
I'm going to tell you all I know about Teacher Lee. An accidental activist with many names and identities. He's a painter, a gamer, and a Chinese art student studying in Italy. Most famously, he's a news account on Twitter with a cat profile picture that only posts bad news.
So now we start getting into like engaging.
Do you live overseas? Students are protesting in our school, but I'm afraid to share protest videos.
Okay, so there's a couple of things now that we're now elevating. You learn at the start how to throw paper airplanes, and these paper airplanes are the things that help with the storytelling. So you follow the gaze of the thing; it brings you to somewhere else. You have to engage with the work for it to keep going. is the first thing. Secondly, he's taking pictures, real life pictures, and putting them into the digital space along with the digital world. You're then playing videos. So you're now watching real videos in a 3D space along with kind of live feeds. All of this is built in an engine, but yet you're kind of incorporating live video into it. You have a very strong narrator who's telling you exactly what it is to think, and it's based on a real person, a documentary. So it's kind of the narrative as such is actually just telling something historical, but it's starting to use, it's 360. You can look all around you, but obviously you're going to look at where they're sending you. I'd recommend you have a look at it. It's here on 2 of the machines, 3 of the machines. 2 of the machines.
I think so, yeah.
All I know about Teacher Lee, and that is by an artist called Zumo. Songs for Passers-by, which won the big award at Venice 2 years ago. This is again going a little bit further in the 360 storytelling space because you are in you're on a whole floor. It's like the size of this room, and it's only you in the headset. Like one person gets to see this every hour, and there's 2 rooms, so 2 people get to see it every hour. It costs tens of thousands to put it on, whatever. So like it's not. Yeah, I mean the economics don't make sense, I suppose. But my God, is it good? It's amazing. So what I just wanted to talk about in terms of what these guys are doing for storytelling. First of all, is light. You always walk towards the light. So a scene will happen. It'll kind of come to a standstill. So it's still happening, but it feels like it's stopped in some way. And you turn and you see the light. Then you know to move your body to the light. Then the next thing opens up. And effectively what they're doing is if I'm watching you in the piece, you're just walking in a square around this. But you feel like you've walked up to the top of the building, back down again. There's these strange kind of dogs. So the light guiding you is a big thing in particular when you're getting to this level of production. Like that's obviously a generated horse. If you're doing immersive film and it's a real horse, it's a whole other thing. You know, it's like there's a gamification of work. That is. Works really well in this context. Storytelling is really bad. And then you've got these real people that have been kind of put into the piece. They do very disconcertingly at the end is that there's a camera on you, and you go to the top of a building and you look down, and in this tiny weird alley is you. So you're looking at yourself weirdly. It won big, and I mean, what does that mean? It means that this artist who is called Céline Desmond, it just means that she will get loads of money to make the next one. And you get loads of universities, and like France, Belgium, China, Taiwan, think this is absolutely worth millions and millions and millions and have loads and loads and loads of money. Ireland, less so. Australia, less so, whatever. But you know, there's certain countries that there's spaces dedicated to this kind of work. They're all in co-productions. They're all taking the 5 years, 4 years, 3 years to make the work. They're all aiming towards Sundance, Venice. You know, like it's an industry.
And with all our tech companies and the big multinational tech companies here, there, none of them come on board and using it as a way to drive forward the technology. It'd be an investment for them.
But you know, they've spent so much money on this marketplace, what's it called? Facebook, or not people, you know, where they thought you'd go shopping online. Metaverse. You'd go in and you'd go shopping in your headset.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. 2 years ago, we all thought that's how we'd shop. And like, people don't want to, by and large, mass majority of people don't want to do that.
Well, they're not interested in headsets anymore. They're only interested in AI.
So they've moved away from headsets, even though Apple was going, look at
there's a certain repulsion from technology itself, from the people that are running it, the way they're using it.
Absolutely.
Look at Grok.
Yeah. But do you know what's happening is they've all this money, but they're gone AI, and they're, I think, betting on the fact that there will always be a section of society that want to put a headset on or want to go home and play games or want to live in a more digital space. There will always be those people.
Yeah, but they'll have Elon Musk's money.
Yeah, but what's happening is people, I think, more and more want the real and want to be in.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I'd rather climb Knockmad and don't know.
Well, no, totally. But what I would say to you is, the likes of Songs for Passers-by or Blur, there's work out there that is so good and full of humanity. And yes, it's technology, but it's really a way of telling story that is unlike any other way of doing it. And I think when we as audiences get to see that more and more, it inspires us as artists to start to figure out how we might make it. Again, I would say, like, in the Irish context, there's very few people making the work because the co-production model doesn't really exist here. And it's starting now with universities having access to the tech, but no one, arts councils have no money. They don't have a digital pot. And also you can understand why, because to make something like this is going to cost you millions. And then 2 people are going to see it an hour. Like, from their point of view, they're like, we don't want to deal with that. Yeah, it's starting, and they have a head of digital now, and but for me, I think being here today is to show you that the stuff is here or is in Ireland. If it's something you want to start to try out on yourself, by yourselves, none of us are going to get to that level because we don't have the money. But that's not to say that we won't be in a position over time. It is getting easier for storytellers to tell stories in this world. I really entreat you to go see, whenever these guys are whenever it's available to watch work that are on the headsets. There's an Irish guy who has made a piece called Impulse. He's Irish, but I think maybe his I don't know, is his partner, are they both Irish? I don't know.
No, she's
the piece that was on last year in Venice that I think didn't win the big one, but it won 3 prizes or whatever. This is kind of based on ADHD and trying to give you the experience of having ADHD. Again, one of those big reasons why people use this is the empathetic. I can show you what it's like to be colorblind. I can show you what it's like to be. This is also available on one of the headsets.
Let's do a thought experiment, a game, if you will. There is a universe of information around you.
So, I don't know why.
Without thought.
This is blended. So you can kind of see the room that you're in, and you are very much able to see what's happening in the headset. You have to play games, throw things, you get overwhelmed. It's based on real life people's stories and experiences of ADHD. They're real life voices talking about what it feels like to have ADHD. It's super technologically accomplished in terms of what you see, little miniature people running around, but you're also very much in the room. It would be seen as one of the kind of forefront people in making this kind of work. I'll give you their names now, and again, the piece is here on a headset. May Abdallah and Barry Jean Murphy. I'm realizing that it's 5-2-2, so I'm just going to open to any questions. Just trying to see if there's anything I talk about. I think we kind of touched on things like, how is the work presented once you make it? Like, is there an additional headset thing? Is there, it doesn't only have to be what's in the headset. You can make the theater around it, so you can play your theater-ness into it. I've talked about the benefits of being able to tour it. We're still going. For a theater company, that's wild, really. The sound world we haven't talked too much about. Binaural sound, live microphones in making 360 film is tricky. It's tricky to get it clear. That's why a lot of the work you'll see is voiceover. It uses text or the singing, let's say. You can do fun things in the after world with the binaural stuff. You turn your head and it follows you. Emperor 101, which is Performance Corporation's world, you meet a real actor and then you go into the headset and they're in the headset with you. And at one point you're in a room, it's all about conspiracy theories. You're in this room and there's all these pins, like a pin for a cushion. And the closer you get to one pin, the more you actually hear real life recording of a conspiracy theorist publicly about conspiracy theories. But it's linked to where your body is, and it gets louder. It's quite cool. So there's a whole sound world that we haven't really had time to touch on. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk. If there's any questions?
Is it possible to get a copy of the links that you have up? I took a photograph.
Yes.
Somebody in the chat just asked that as well.
I chat people. Yeah.
Up on your website.
Yes, I could definitely send you the links to other people's work.
Sorry, you see the list there? You have YouTube, where you've.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be sending out our videos.
Well, no.
I'll be sending out the rest of them. Yeah,
the links there.
I'll go through Con or David, and he'll send on.
Yeah, like stuff that's on Vimeo.
No, absolutely, and please do. Yeah, yes.
Like if you go into either of them to try and find them, it's impossible if you have the link.
Yeah, no, I'll
share them with anybody who's registered afterwards.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi.
I wanted to just echo and like as an inspirational final thing of like, we have both gone for the last 3 years to Venice and sat and watched stuff that is so expensive and so technically polished and is so empty. Yeah. And the stuff that we've responded to has often been the stuff that is quite low tech relatively, but has story. And so I would just echo James says, what, at the end of the day, it's about what you're saying, what you're telling. And so much of it is, a lot of it, like that thing that was made by your man, the astronaut. I was thinking of when you were an astronaut there. There's a piece made by Doug Lehman, who's this really accomplished Hollywood director. And it was basically made to sell the Apple Vision Pro. And I was so angry after it, like really angry about that this shit had been made with all this money when there is people who could tell stories. And so, I think, don't be intimidated by the idea that it has to be.
But is that not our strength? As Irish people, we're good storytellers. And is there not a case for guerrilla warfare here? Where we go out with instant 360 and a
it's kind of what I it's kind of what I did.
And turn the technology back on that.
Come on, let's go. True.
Yeah.
There's a piece that they saw maybe 2 years ago, and it was basically people jumping into a swimming pool. And it was beautiful.
We'll hopefully show it this.
Oh yeah, great.
This year.
Film flag, go.
But there's so much.
This work that we're talking about is there available to you. They just jumped into swimming pools. They're like, God, human beings are beautiful, and the body is beautiful, and water is beautiful, and and then you go and see that there was like Captain America. I was really excited. It was like a 45-minute long thing. I was going, this is so expensive. This is going to be amazing. You kind of get in there going, why would you spend any time watching this? Never mind making this. But look, that's also a blockbuster. Cinema is not for everybody. Like, there's horses and courses, but I would encourage you to think that there's never been a better time to get into storytelling in digital than now, because it's just getting easier and easier, cheaper and cheaper, and more accessible. But until you kind of try your mitts at it and get it wrong, it'll always feel like something far away. But you're right, we need storytellers.
Well, I think we have a lot of good storytellers.
No, as in, sorry, the form needs storytellers.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it does. And again, we've seen a lot of stuff. And then some of the stuff that wins is like this weird little man on a planet walking around with his dog. Like a small little planet that you walk around and it's gorgeous, and it's about humans and
little guy pushing the cube.
Yes. Amazing. Anything else?
The first time you did the 180, just curious to know, I know it's like how long is a piece of string, but for you and your team that were with you, like how long did you spend on production and post-production?
Not at all, that's a good question. I had 3 performers. I'm a producer and me. I had Paul who's the camera person. I had a costume person come in and do the costume. I had a composer make the music. I had Anna, I suppose. So we might have had 9 people total, including actors. Like, I mean, in theatre, one person show has 9 people before you can begin. We did 2 days rehearsals with the dancer, 2 days with Victoria. Anna went and wrote a song, learned how to sing it, and then we rehearsed it in someone's house in Chantla. Now, the one thing I would say also about that one is, you see when she falls back the very tech, and she falls back and she's in the sea. We had one go. So she had one chance of falling back into the sea. And if we didn't get it, we were in trouble because there's no hairdryer, there's no electricity. Like it is not worth the nerves in some ways, because we practiced a couple of times and she was like, and now I tip back, and every time was wrong. And then it was like, we have to, and we just about got away with it, but like, I wouldn't recommend it. But also naivety is absolutely a good thing. Going in naive is like, why can't we do this thing? Whereas now I think I'd be like, oh no, the weather, now that I know what I know. So what's that to say is really not that long.
Okay. And then post-production as well?
Post-production with Paul took a week.
Okay.
But I would go up to Mayo and sit beside him. It's really, do you know what takes time? Things like when the text comes in, how long it stays there, the size of it, when it leaves. Because when that's wrong, you're like, if it's too close, or it's too soon, or it's too long, it's a very small window when you're in a headset. If it's not right, it's really wrong because it's quite invasive on your space. And that's just practice. But yeah, we spent a lot of time on those little tiny bits of text that you don't even notice really when you're watching it. When they're wrong, you notice. Hi.
The piece earlier where you bring it's location based, so you're using the headset outside.
Yeah.
So what senses are you trying to activate there?
The weather.
The weather, yeah.
The weather in Ar Ais Arís is the secret weapon. We have shown this work. We just recently showed it in First Fortnight in Dublin. We had to show it inside, and as well, we were in Montreal a few years ago and it was raining and we showed inside, and it's just, it hurts me. Because when you're outside, the tiniest bit of wind tricks your mind into thinking that there's water in your feet. And like, you never, like, how often do you get to do that? So, yeah, it's a big part of it for Ar Ais Arís. Yeah. Now you see, you can't get the tech anymore. So nobody does anything outside. Because all the new headsets need walls. You put them on and it needs to know where the walls are and it needs to know where the chairs are. Like it's a big, around you falling down, you're getting carried away. So it needs, and weirdly, those Quest 2s and definitely Quest 3s, so you turn it on, it scans this room and then it will never forget this room. Every time you put it on again, it's like, oh, I'm in this room. It's kind of wild.
You're only in admin mode or something.
You can come in and out. Is it?
You can get rid of the.
Oh, you can get it off the thing. Yeah,
it's messy.
It's messy. Yeah, it is messy.
If it gets hit by direct sunlight, you'll land.
Well, I learned that the hard way because some of my lenses have died. Then you give it to people. Like the worst thing for Ar Ais Arís is a sunny day, like blue skies, because if it hits the sun, the two little bits of glass, it'll kind of break them.
Oh.
Yeah, so it kind of gets like inked, like bright green dots. And then you'd have people who'd be like, oh my God, what a great, like SWAT. And I'm there having a meltdown, like trying to cover it with the towel. But yeah, it is the making of it, I would say.
It's a very simple question. On that, in my main, when I noticed the number 4, you had put down the direction where you wanted the person to look. Title bit.
No.
All right, it looked like that on the screen, which I thought was really clever. As in where the character was going. It was kind of
point.
No, like the 4 was bottom left on the screen.
Oh no, that's because I had turned your gaze. No, no, I kind of like the idea that you find her. And it's so funny as well because people think that you can't hear them, and where's she gone? Oh, sure, everyone is kind of watching it in pure silence. And you're like, some people have full blown. Oh, my feet, like. We've had, and the thing is, like, the first time we took Ar Ais Arís out was we toured Gaeltacht coastal areas on the west coast that had been worse, that had some of the worst immigration, Irish-speaking communities, and you had so many older people who lived through it and still live through it, who've never worn a headset, who's sitting looking out at the sea, and you put the headset on, and like it was amazing the conversations we had through that.
It's probably theatre and watching people watch.
Oh my God.
The Ologon's version.
And like some people who will always be panicked, no matter what you do. I can't see it. It's blurry. And you're kind of going, I know, yeah, it's blurry. Oh no, it's fine now. And you've not done nothing. You know, you just because
are people sitting down to watch it?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. No, I was thinking risk assessment.
No, but like a lot of the work in Venice, you're standing, and you are often having to engage with like what you don't have with this is hands. Like you go to Quest 2 and you have hands, picking things, pointing things.
But it knows the room and it kind of
knows the room. And if the minute if I was in it and I was getting really carried away and I came this close to you, the thing would stop, and I would see her.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an override.
There's an override. Oh yeah, for danger, because I mean, many a story now of people falling off things and into things.
Well, read with other supervision.
Yeah, and generally they're not supervised. Really, there's someone around you, but they're not watching you intimately. Really, the technology is such that
safe.
Swivel chair is a very good idea.
The swivel chair is a good idea. Yeah. But also it's funny because you can really encourage people to look around and people won't. Like with Ologon, we put people in swivel chairs and by the end we had to
swiveling.
Get them to practice swiveling. Sit down, look, swivel around there, you're nice and safe, because they would just be like kind of and like one of the first times in the arts festival, the Arts Council came to see it, and which was a really big deal for us. And again, we were early on in Brew. And they came in and we were really nervous. And there were 6 people watching it. And one person was watching it like this. And it's 180. So you're not meant to look like that. And this Arts Council person was like swiveling around. And I was going, oh, something's wrong. And I hadn't changed the setting of the Arts Council person's one. Which means that what is meant to be 180 was now stitched into 360. So if you can imagine the human was like this. And like it's a long piece when like it looked strange. And now, luckily, she had a good time. I don't know how. I learned a lesson that day. Check. We've run out of time. Thank you so much. I am Brew Theatre. If you've got any questions, I'll be here. I'll be here now if you want to ask anything. I have given the pieces to David and Colin. So be in touch with them maybe about when they might be reviewed. Thank you to those at home. And I'm here for questions. But I would encourage you, go see it and try and make it. And you'll figure out that actually there's a way to get your artistic way across.
Yeah, and just to say, like, if you go on our website, you'll see the kit that we have. Always feel free to be in touch about any. The Brew website. No, the Centre for Creative